Hello class, welcome to Bangtan Film School. I'm your teacher today, Ms. Wright. Thank you for joining me. Today we're going to take a look at Jimin's Like Crazy behind video. They call it the music video shoot sketch and see what we can learn about the making of this music video. All right, let's get it. Just trust me. She's saying, baby, 생각하지 마. There's not a bad thing here tonight. First thing to notice and appreciate is that everything for this music video was done on a set. So that means that they built from scratch pretty much everything that you see, all the different scenes that they have in the film. And it's really cool. Baby, he's acting with his feet. Good job. Here's the laser light that we see that we said in the previous time in my previous video that was reflecting like water, like ripples in water, kind of like he's underwater, which could be like emotionally underwater, or it could be like he was feeling like he's in the fishbowl where everybody's just observing him and he's not a part of it. There's different ways to interpret it, but this is a laser light, and then it does appear a lot more blue in the final edit. Of course, in editing, you can adjust things like colors, pretty much all you want. And here's the camera coming in. We can get a shot of the camera coming in. I think that's on a crane arm or a jib. We'll see it later. So they have a lot of really nice camera movement in this music video, again, like the other ones, and a lot of music videos will. They're going to be using ring stabilizers again, the round wheel-shaped things that we have the camera in the center as we move it around to get really nice smooth push-ins and pull-outs. They also have some tracking shots. They have a jib arm. I'll show you that a little bit later. And all of that lets you have really nice camera movement.
이런 내용이나 나레이션을 들어보시면은 걱정 안 해도 된다, 난 떠나지 않는다, 뭐 이런 내용이 나오는데 그런 말을 비슷하게 그 영화에서 했었어요. 그 장면이 떠올라서 잘 어울릴 것 같다 해서 컨셉을 이렇게 가져가게 되었습니다.
That is the jib arm. Okay, so if you look here at the very bottom, then you can see there's some tracks. You can just barely see them next to Jimin's feet. And then on the track, they have this jib arm is set up. So it is an arm that's attached here, and it can move like this, up and down. It can swing. They're really very cool. And then on the end, you have the camera. And the camera also, kind of like on your wrist, can move up and down. They can sometimes they can even spin completely around, just depending on the type that you have. So the camera operator can control how it moves up and down, how the jib arm moves as well, and you can get some really cool camera movements from having a jib arm. Jimin being tiny. All right, we know I love it when we can see the monitor. So here on the monitor, we can see that they're filming in 60 frames per second, which is a very nice frame rate. It's going to let you be able to slow it down a little bit, as the standard is going to be, more like 30 frames per second. So anything higher than that, you're going to be able to slow it down if you want to do slow-mo. And they do use a little bit of that. I'm going to pop up our exposure triangle here so we can see shutter speed, how quickly the lens opens and closes, the aperture, how much it opens and closes, how much light it lets in, and ISO is the sensitivity to the light. So if we go back and look, the shutter speed 180, the 640 is likely referring to our ISO. So that's going to be better for lower light. And 5600K, that's the WB is our white balance. So what we're saying here is that they want it slightly more blue at 5600K just allowing a little more blue rather than like a white light, which would be more in the 4 to 5,000 range. WB means white balance, so it's where you're setting what white looks like. And for this case, the white is a little bit more blue. Like look at his t-shirt, you can see just a little bit more blue. Down here we have our time code, and they haven't been filming that much at this point because they only have 18 minutes and 38 seconds of footage so far for this camera.
제가 겪었던 일들을 시간 순서대로 표현을 한 앨범이에요. 근데 오해하시면 안 되는 게 이렇진 않았습니다.
He's
의미로
so
좀 더
cute to
뭔가
make sure we're
뭔가
aware.
눈에
The
보이는
music
것을
video
좀
is just a
즐겁게 하기
story,
위해서 표현을
not
이렇게 한
reality.
거지 이러한 일들이 있었다고 보여주는 거 아니니까요. 그냥 재밌게 봐주시면 감사하겠습니다.
Okay, over here we can see the camera a little more. And there's also another guy holding something. I'm not sure what it is. It's maybe a light.
영상으로만 표현이 잘 됐으면 좋겠는데
You did a great job, Jimin, don't worry.
영상으로는 막 이상하지 않았거든요. 결과물만 좋으면 돼요.
All right, how are we doing here? So, with the 400 ISO, that's for lower light. So they had to adjust that. We're still filming at 60 frames per second. Okay.
진짜 거의 느낌이 콘서트 1시간 반 지났을 때 느낌. 타이틀곡인 Like Crazy 뮤비 첫 번째 촬영이 끝났는데요. 되게 오랜만에 모르는 분들과 연기를 함께 한다는 게 많이 어려웠었던 것 같고요. 세미플이라는 곡과는 굉장히 다른 뮤직비디오로 나올 거라 기대가 되면서도 저의 연기 실력 때문에 좀 걱정이 많이 되긴 하는데 만들어주신 세트와 옆에서 연기해주신 분들 그리고 뭐 조명이나 영상 색감 같은 게 그래도 되게 이뻤던 것 같아서 기대를
It looks great.
하겠습니다. 예쁘게
Good
잘
job,
나왔으면
Jimin.
좋겠고 오늘도 너무 촬영 재밌었고 내일 뵙겠습니다.
There's our mud.
I'm afraid that everything will disappear.
Just trust me.
재밌게 촬영 시작했습니다. 잠을 잘 자고 와서 시작 컨디션이 너무 좋아요. 진해가 없으면 집이 되게 예쁘다. 보고 싶거든.
Of course, we wouldn't know because he never lets us see his house. Okay. Here we have another jib arm on a track. You can see, I don't know if you can see the track on here, but the way it's moving, it's a track. And this guy is holding a light. This is kind of fun. He's got a long tube light and he's moving it with the camera to adjust the lighting on Jimin. And that's a really cool way to do it. And you can see the camera here on the jib arm. Let's go.
방금은
And how do our settings look here? We're doing 48 frames per second, which is quite interesting. So, like I've told you before, 24 is the standard for film. So if you're wanting to have it look like it's done on film stock, you would do 24. But 48 can give a similar feeling to that, except it's going to have a higher clarity. I believe Lord of the Rings was filmed on 48 frames per second. So they're definitely going for a different look in this scene than they are from the club scenes, or they wouldn't have made that change. They probably want it to be a little less smooth, just slightly grainier, which it is, so that makes sense.
Like Crazy 초반 도입부를 녹화했습니다. 지금부터는 엔딩을 녹화할 예정이고 여러 가지의 감정과 기억들 속에 제 방과 제 손이 진흙이 되는 걸 보실 수 있을 것 같습니다. 보시죠.
Why is he so silly? Here the camera is still on the jib, but you can see it's covered in some kind of a cloth, probably to block unwanted light so that they could have softer light around the edges of what the camera is filming. And they even have a little clip on top. Wipe. Or it could partly be due to help make sure he doesn't get any mud on the wrong part of the camera, but probably for the lighting.
괜찮았어? 이게 왜 그랬는지 모르는데 이렇게 긁고 이렇게 이렇게.
신발을 젖주시고 연기 얼마나 잘하나 볼까?
장난 아니다.
Putting mud on his
나 지금
shoes.
문어
Ah, J-Hope!
좋았어, 관람이 괜찮더라.
Our sunshine is here. Hello, Hobie. All right, one thing I want you to look at is the background here. So notice how the club is actually very white with a lot of gray in it. It's not blue at all. No blue. All that's done by the lighting. So you can completely transform a space with lighting. You know, kind of like I have a white wall and now it's purple, mostly. So same kind of deal. Lighting is very powerful on your when you're filming.
아, 호mon스한테 그런 스텝에 관한 얘기를 들으니까 기분이 좋은데?
좋은 스텝이었어.
형, 내가 빵을 나 샌드위치 먹었구나. 잘 됐지. 근데 이런
All this
빵을
scene
먹으면
does
진짜
is make me
거의
hungry.
5년 된 거 같은데. 근데 저 오버 아니나?
그렇게 맛있다, 그렇게.
그게 맛있어요?
I think Hobie should bring me some croquettes too. That looks delicious.
들었어요? 센스 뭐야?
나 진짜 우유 생각했는데.
아, 그래?
진짜 저 지방으로 나왔어?
이제
좀 생각이 좀 깊다잉? 진짜 사진 못 찍는데. 어째 찍어야지 뭔가 선물 받은 느낌이 날까?
원래 못 찍어도 매력이야. 진짜 못나게 물어보겠다. 물어보고도 이렇게 못나게 물어보는 게.
그거 아니야?
뭐야?
형, 내가
야, 봐봐.
아니 잠깐만 이게 중요한 게
이거
아니야.
봐봐.
아니야.
치킨 너겟 아니라 치킨 너겟. 야, 치킨 너겟이잖아 이거는. 야, 그렇게 치킨 너겟처럼 찍는 것도 너도 참 대단하다.
형, 그게 중요한 게 아니에요. 다 보고 진짜 느낌 감상을 얘기해야지.
알았어. 좋아.
형 볼다고 해. 소감 못 봐.
뭐야? 이거? 나중에 먹어.
내가 챙겨.
나중에 이거 먹으려고.
아예 뭐 이거
당 떨어질 때.
이걸 붙여드릴게요.
당 떨어질 때 이렇게.
세 개를 먹어버리네. 세 개쯤 콜. 왜 이렇게 맛있냐 이거?
담백해?
사실 여러분.
The goofiest,
제가
most
살이
precious people in the
어렵다고
world. Okay.
살이 잘 찐다는 게 다 이유가 있습니다. 먹을 때 많이 먹어요.
All right, let's get back to filmmaking. Okay, so show it again. There's that jib arm, really long, and with the camera attached to it, so you can get some really cool camera angles using something like this. They're very versatile. It is possible to buy smaller jib arms that aren't like robotic. Like this is a robotic one. They're going to have controls where they can control the camera from the other end of the jib. But you can buy like cheaper ones that will just fit on top of a tripod. You put weights on one end and the camera at the other, and it lets you do some really, really cool shots that can take your filmmaking from looking a little more plain to something that looks a little bit more like you have a bigger budget, just by having something like a smaller jib arm. It can be very effective. Now we're filming at 60 frames per second, which seems to be the majority of the video. And there's our little guy with the light again. Do you see that? He's got his little light pole. Hobie.
마지막에 더 부족한가?
담백하고 좋은데? 담백한 게 예쁜 거 아니야?
그런 거 같아.
Why is he so tall?
제요. 다 제이홉이 있어서 그래.
Jimin is the tiniest tall person ever.
연예인이랑 사진 한번 찍어볼까? 나 연예인이랑 찍은 척 해야지. 너 셀럽같이 해봐. 나 연예인처럼.
셀럽같이 이렇게 해야 되는 거 아니야? 나 왼쪽 가야지.
찍을게요. 하나, 둘, 셋.
좋아. 열심히 하고. 나 갈게. 멀리 와줘. 뭘. 어려운 것도 없어? 나 갈게. 나 그냥 조용히 가야겠다.
시끄러운데요 지금 형님? 발소리 녹음.
우리 지민이.
They're so funny. Okay, here outside. Now they're outside of the studio, so you can see what it looks like. Notice they have really big doors there that can open up so they can bring in really large set pieces or larger pieces of equipment. And pretty much all studio sets are going to have giant doors like that. Like they'll be really big just so that you can bring in any large items that you need to.
파이팅하고 내일 응원한다. 우리 지민이 솔로 많이 사랑해주세요. 라면.
Love you, Jimin. Here's our camera. You can see what it looks like over here. There's Jiminy being adorable. And that was a bounce board that just went out of the way over here, bouncing some light onto him. Okay, here we can see how the set pulls apart. Isn't that cool? I would like to freeze frame that just real quick. Here. So here, if you look a little closer, you can see that Jimin's on a platform about a foot off of the ground, and then hanging above him, they have the lights, and then the walls can be pulled back or pushed in. And it just creates the coolest effect when you're showing it in the music video, that it all can come apart like that. I love it. There's our camera. This one is on the ring stabilizer. So this is a handheld shot using the ring stabilizer. There, you can get a really good look at it. See how the camera looks when it's on there. Now, with this one, they're not using the ring stabilizer. Instead, it's actually on his shoulder. That's going to make it much jerkier. And when they show the footage, you can see it does shake and jerk. So depending on the kind of feeling that you want from the footage will change what you do with the camera. Are you going to put it on a jib? Are you going to put it on a stabilizer? Are you going to put it on a Steadicam system? Or are you just going to handhold it? And sometimes you do want it to be shaky. Like if you're having, say, a chase scene and people are running and the energy is really high, then yeah, you might want to just straight up hold the camera or put it on the shoulder so that it is purposefully more jerky to help get the feeling of what it's like to be there. Because remember, the camera is always part of our storytelling. So how we do our camera movement is helping us express the story. Here, see how it's just a little bit jerkier. But now we're back on the jib arm. See how it's able to swivel the camera as it moves, really nice and smooth. So there's going to be someone over there controlling that. And the mud coming down off of the walls. Again, that's a practical effect, meaning that they did it in studio live, not digitally. At first, the mud, you kind of think it might be digitally added mud, but it's not. They really did the mud. It's very cool.
오늘 이렇게 Like Crazy 뮤비 촬영이 끝났는데요. 지금까지 좀 안 써봤던 촬영 방법으로 촬영을 해서 어떻게 될지 전혀 모르겠어요. 뭐 열감지라든지 진흙도 그렇고 사실 열감지.
Here's the heat sensor camera you can see. So it's a special type of camera that's recording the heat signatures of the people.
이 카메라가
It looks really cool.
어떻게 나올지 모니터도 못 해봐서 그게 더 궁금하고 인트로랑 아우트로랑 같은 장면인데 또 손에 진흙이 묻어있거나 발자국 이런 게 좀 다른 디테일이 있는데 이것도 또 어떻게 이렇게 될지 과연 기대합니다. 네, 이제 무대 연습만 남았습니다. 여러분들 이제 정말 여러분들과 만납니다. 너무 떨리고 긴장돼서 요즘에 호병처럼 진짜 잠이 안 오더라고요. 여러분들 진짜 완벽하게 준비해서 여러분들 앞에 나설 수 있게 연습도 열심히 하고 있습니다. 기대 많이 해주시고 Like Crazy, Set Me Free 이번 페이스 앨범 다 기대 많이 해주시면 감사하겠습니다. 감사합니다. 사랑합니다.
Love you. Jimin worries so much, but the music video is gorgeous and I love it. All right. Thank you for joining me today, class. That is the end of our class here at Bangtan Film School. I'm Ms. Wright. And don't forget your homework. Obviously, you need to stream Face, pretty much all of it. Also, let's not forget to stream People Part 2. And we need to get some more views on RM's persona to help it get to 100 million. So thanks for joining me, and class is dismissed.